All right, James, so here we are on the 5th hole at the honors course. It's a beautiful hole. It's one of the first real tee shots into the ridge. So it's you can get easily distracted by the beauty out here. I can definitely say, especially on, with the leaves starting to change as they are. But we're here to talk about some of the things that we talked about in some of the past lessons with the full swing, about making sure we aim a little left in order to hit the shot that we're hitting instead of trying to force the shot that we want to hit. Because I know off the tee you hit a lot of cuts, even though you might want to hit a draw. Your numbers might suggest you're gonna hit a draw, but the thing is you're not hitting a draw. And if you're gonna hit a cut consistently, we got to make sure we go about trying to hit that cut and not trying to force something we can't do. So this is a good hole to do it on, because obviously you can't miss left, and there's room out to the right. So if you aim for that cut, it gives you a little more room than if you're trying to, aim up the right side and trying to hit a draw and you screw it up and you're in the trees.
Right.
So, and another few things that we had talked about with your setup and aiming. Do you remember some of the things we talked about?
Yeah, definitely trying to aim a little bit more left. I know my tendency is to aim out to the right, and that really kind of puts me in an awkward position because you have to overcompensate if you're trying to hit a cut or trying to hit a draw. So really trying to square up the stance and kind of in setup and in the backswing, really feeling like I'm keeping my stability and turning more around my spine, around my head, and not flailing all over the place.
And we talked about that. If your head's moving around, it causes your back to move around, which is going to cause you more pain. It's also going to cause inconsistencies with the strike.
Right.
So we've got to make sure we focus on a lot of things we talked about in practice. We touched on the aiming a lot, the keeping the head straight, and then obviously staying focused and engaged in the shot. Couple of things we talked about in practicing was visualizing this shot. So I know that you went out and you were hitting balls on the range and you kind of tried to go through hole by hole and I just want to know what you thought about on this hole. Just what would be ideal? Hit a good tee shot, what iron, and then the shots you want to hit, draws, cuts, anything low, high.
Yeah, I mean, I think specifically on this hole, I mean, it's a very lengthy par 4. It's 460 up the hill.
Yeah, and it plays even longer than that with the dog leg.
Yeah, absolutely. So really for me, I'm not necessarily the longest hitter, so it's just kind of all about hitting a good tee shot and putting myself in the fairway and in a position to reach the green with 5, 6, 7 iron, depending on how well the shots hit.
Is this a hole you're trying to be precise off the tee? Would you want to be left side and left side only, or do you just not care as long as you get it up in the fairway?
Definitely would lean towards the left side of the fairway. That takes out some of the length.
But a good thing about this hole is if you are on the right side, it's not a whole lot of danger.
Yeah, it's definitely one where it's a fairly wide fairway. You have room to miss it right. You don't have so much room to miss it left, especially if you don't hit it 300 yards.
Perfect. So we'll just have you, go through that process and hit a shot.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. See if everything we talked about is working or if I'm just a failure.